Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending Managing WordPress Sites with Jetpack. I am Jesse Friedman, the Director of Innovation for Jetpack's business team. Jetpack is a plugin built by Automatic. Automatic is a company that runs Jetpack, WordPress.com, WooCommerce, and several other products for the WordPress community. Today, we're going to be talking about ways in which we can use Jetpack to manage multiple sites. I'm going to talk through several different areas from my past. I'm going to give some stories around ways in which I think different companies or organizations can benefit from the tools and systems that we put in place for Jetpack. Everything that I'm going to talk about builds on each other. So things that I'm talking about for implementers, content creators, organizers, they can also be used by agencies and hosts. And we're going to just kind of walk through all of that today. Hopefully at the end of this talk, you have a good understanding of the tools that are available to Jetpack that most people probably don't know about. So a lot of people are aware of the functionality that Jetpack comes packed with, but a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of the APIs, the integrations, the work that we do to help with companies distribute Jetpack and provide a better experience to end customers. So to begin, let's talk a little bit about what Jetpack is. Jetpack is a plugin for WordPress. It was founded on the premise that WordPress.com was providing a fantastic experience to customers back 10 plus years ago. And so what we wanted to do at Automatic was take all the functionality that we built for WordPress.com and bundle it into a plugin that would be available to the rest of the WordPress community. And so Jetpack started as a completely free plugin that packed in a ton of features. Well, actually, in the beginning, it had only a few features, but now it has a ton of features. And so now it's used by millions of people across the world. It's translated into tons of languages. It has 50 plus features that are available to customers. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the more popular ones. But the most important thing to know about Jetpack is that while it does have a large suite of tools, the way that Jetpack is built is to seamlessly augment the WordPress core experience. And what I mean by that is that we install the Jetpack plugin and users are not bombarded with 50 tools. They don't feel that, they don't see all of those tools at once. What we do instead is change the way in which they're using WordPress to better their experience. I'll give you a perfect example. Jetpack's Publicize tool will automatically take all of your posts that you publish and share it with your favorite social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook. There really is almost no configuration other than connecting those social accounts. There isn't a whole dashboard just built for this thing. What happens is when you go to publish a post with Publicize turned on and configured, it presents a new window before you hit submit or publish, and allows you to craft your messages, see what it's going to look like on the social media accounts. And then when you hit publish, it automatically sends out that content. So that's what I mean by seamlessly augments the WordPress core experience. It isn't interrupting your flow. It isn't providing a whole separate UI that you have to get working with. It kind of works exactly where you are at that moment. And so some of the more popular features I mentioned, Publicize. Stats is probably a very one of our, if not most popular feature. It is very much like Google Analytics. Provides stats about the traffic to your site, where people are coming from, the pages that they're visiting, where they're originating from. But it's in a much more consumable format for end users. Doesn't require any configuration or integration of tags in the footer or header like Google Analytics, and it's much more consumable for end users. Brute force protection. We've blocked hundreds of billions of attempts to log into websites. We suggest that everybody has brute force protection. So even if your passwords aren't as strong as they possibly could be, or you don't have two-factor on, you can still mitigate risk to your site. Contact forms, Jetpack has an amazing Gutenberg-based contact form that makes it very easy to build a contact form on every single page. Tons of Gutenberg blocks, a large library of those. And again, that's what I mean by direct augmentation of your setup. So you turn on Jetpack and you don't have to go select the things that you want to customize and turn on. Instead, the Gutenberg blocks are just made available to you in your writing experience. We have tons of integrations with third-party tools. So whether it's MailChimp or Creative Mail or other tools like that, it works seamlessly directly with your experience, and we do all the work of that. So like, for example, if you wanted to paste a YouTube link, we would automatically embed it for you, or a Twitter tweet, something like that. A lot of people don't know this, but we have a completely free photo or image and static asset CDN. So that's available to you, to you and your clients if you'd like to use that. And related posts is probably the last one that I want to talk about. That's a highly popular feature. Related posts will just change the bottom of your post and show you other content that's related to that. Those are all free features, and they're all meant to either improve security, performance, or help you grow your site's traffic and engagement. So real quickly, I just want to talk about one of the requirements for Jetpack to function. So Jetpack actually has what we call a connection, and what that does is it allows Jetpack to communicate with cloud servers so that we can offload heavy requests, serve those images through the CDN, manage your activity, monitor your site for downtime, things like that. The connection is actually no longer required for some core components of Jetpack to function. However, when you do connect Jetpack, you unlock a great deal of power and functionality for Jetpack. And so I would just suggest that if you have Jetpack running on your site, take a look and see if it's connected, and if it's not, make sure you sign up and use it and take advantage of all of those tools. And I mention this because the connection is really the nervous system of Jetpack, and it's an important component. Again, not completely required to use some of the Jetpack features, but definitely something that you want to take a look at to really expand on the functionality of Jetpack. So now we're going to kind of dive into some of the past careers I've had and how I would use Jetpack to help me support those initiatives. So the first types of individuals I want to talk about are implementers, SEOs, and content creators. This is a unique group of individuals who are probably going to be paid to manage your site. Manage your site or change the content on your site. You might have to go through and read every single post as an SEO and try and identify opportunities to modify content or update links, or there's a whole list of things that go on there. But the thing that gets frustrating could be that if you're managing many sites, dozens of sites even, you don't have a single place to log in and do all that in one spot. Once you connect your site through Jetpack, all of the power of WordPress.com becomes available to you. So you can go to WordPress.com and see in the screenshot, you can see that I'm actually looking at the plugins view, and I've actually centered in on the Akismet plugin. And I can see all of the sites that I have Akismet on, that it's enabled on, and I can manage that plugin independent of logging into each individual site. So this is really advantageous. Again, if you're an implementer and you're not necessarily writing code, but you're configuring themes and customizing CSS and really kind of doing the work of building the site through content and content architecture, this will be very helpful to you. If you're an SEO, you might want to come in here and turn on something like Yoast for all of your sites and manage that through a system like this. And so even so for WordPress.com has all these available tools, so you can even publish content, edit themes, all of that stuff, or edit, customize your sites and everything right on WordPress.com. So one login, one UI, and it helps you to manage all of your Jetpack sites in one place. I talked earlier about stats. There's also a stats section on WordPress.com, so you can see all the stats for all of your Jetpack sites in one place. A lot of people don't know about this. This is a really nice feature. So this is showing you the overview of all of the sites that you have and their current stats. And if you drill in, you can also see insights and get a much more detailed view, but again, without having to log into a variety of different sites. Another feature that I'm going to go into deeper later is the activity log. The activity log is like a running list of all the changes on your site, and it gives you the opportunity to see what's going on. Later, we're going to talk about how agencies might use this, but for implementers, it would be really good just to be able to watch for plugin updates, or if other people are editing the site, you'll be able to track that. It gives you, it keeps your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening with your site. So next, I want to talk about universities or other many site organizations. These might be companies that don't necessarily build sites for others, build sites for themselves instead, but have many sites under management. And I talked a little bit about how in the past I was I've had a few different careers. I talked about SEO. I used to do SEO. I was also a professor for many years at a university here in Rhode Island in the States. And I can tell you firsthand that universities have the need for a variety of sites. Now, you could also be doctor's offices with multiple locations. You could be radio stations. You could be a variety of types of organizations that have to manage and host their own sites. So the first thing I want to talk about is jetpack.com. If you head over to jetpack.com, you can click login, and you can see a management view for all of your sites. And this is an opportunity for you to really focus and drill in on security. WordPress.com still leverages all the features that we talked about, and you can get a lot of this there too. And so we're starting to port over and think about the experience that we want at jetpack.com specifically, but right now it's primarily focused on security. And so I talked a little bit about brute force protection. That's a free service. We also have a variety of premium features to help you secure your sites. And I can't emphasize this enough. Having a good backup solution is so important. And I can't tell you how many times people have come to us and said, man, I wish that I had backed up my site with you because something happened and now there's not really anything that we can do about it. And one of our core initiatives here at Jetpack is to think about ways in which we can expand the backup offering to as many people as we can, not only because it's our core offering, but also because we just want to do what we can to help users of the internet. And if you've ever built a site for yourself or someone else, you know the amount of work and effort that goes into that. Backups are absolutely vital to protect your investment. But on jetpack.com, you can log in and you can see when your last backup was taken. You can see if there are any malicious files found through the scanning service. You can configure our search tool, which provides a cloud-based searching of which is perfect for like large sites or e-commerce sites. And we also have the activity log. So definitely take a moment to check out jetpack.com as backend and log in there. The next thing I want to talk about is the mobile app. A lot of people don't know this, but we have a mobile app. The Jetpack mobile app went live this year, and it provides a seamless, full-on WordPress experience. You can write content, you can publish posts, you can moderate comments. You can see a lot of stuff that's going on your site. But one of the things I want to point out is that if you're in charge of managing multiple sites, so like in this instance of a university where you have many different sites, maybe you run a department. When I worked at a university, I was working in the School of Technology, and specifically in the Internet and Web Design department. And we had, we had a website for the entire college. We had a website for the department. Then we had websites for specific classes. And, obviously it makes sense for us to be able to publish all of this content and help the students engage with the curriculum. But that's a lot of sites, and that's a lot of sites under management. And it's not necessarily your expertise. So you might want to rely on your systems teams, but we know how overworked those people can be. So this is why I suggest that if you have a lot of sites under management, you can use jetpack.com to secure your site and then use the mobile app to stay in touch with everything that's going on with your site. So here we can see that I got 2 notifications at 2 different times. One was to let me know that one of my sites was backed up. That's a nice little notification. Keeps me feeling like things are secure and safe. But after my site was backed up, I uploaded a plugin, and Jetpack Scan automatically detected that my site might be at risk. Well, how do we solve that? Well, the cool thing is that if you didn't get the notification at any time with the mobile app, you can scan a site. And that's what's happening on the left here. So pretend if I didn't get that notification, I just wanted to run a scan. I can do that from my mobile phone, and I can hit scan files, and it'll scan the entire site for me. But in this case, I went through the process of hitting that notification, and I'm brought to this screen that shows me what's happening. Right now, it's found 1 threat on the site, and I can fix that threat. This is all happening from my mobile phone. So it goes into a little bit more detail. It shows me what vulnerable plugin exists, and I can hit fix all. And right there on my mobile phone, it identifies the threat and starts to repair the problem. So, if you're in charge of managing, a variety of sites, and you don't necessarily have all the tools or things that you need to do that, but you do have Jetpack, then everything is available to you in your pocket in this mobile app. I would encourage you to download the Jetpack mobile app and give that a shot. I think it'll really impress a lot of you. Next, I want to talk about agencies and site managers. So as I said before, everything that we're talking about kind of builds on itself, right? So we started talking about how do we, edit content and publish content for all of our sites in one UI. That was WordPress.com. Then in terms of universities or many site managers, we talked about Jetpack.com for security and the mobile app. Obviously, these are unique individual situations, but they all kind of work together and build on each other. So I talked about Jetpack.com in terms of setting up your security, but I didn't talk about licensing. So right now, if you go to jetpack.com/agencies, you will see a sign up form that'll allow you to sign up to start using our licensing tool. This launched just this year. It's available on jetpack.com. When you log in, you're given the opportunity to issue licenses for all of your connected sites. So instead of having to buy individual products for each individual site, manage the billing for each one of those. So like we had an agency, for example, tell us that they had 100 sites and they wanted Jetpack backup on every one of them because they can't live without Jetpack backup. But previous to the licensing solution, they would have 100 monthly bills with 100 monthly credit card statements, and that's kind of a mess. So we listened to everyone, and we took the time to build out a licensing solution. So now, as an agency, you can come in here and see a list of all the sites that are connected on Jetpack, and very quickly issue a license. Now, here's the cool part: if Jetpack is connected, and you copy and paste the license, or you issue the license into the WP admin for the site, and actually in a very short amount of time, we're actually going to make it even easier. So there is no key that you have to move around. You'll be able to just instantaneously kick our products off and they'll start working. This is a really, really nice function of Jetpack. So once the license is put in, Jetpack will, let's say you bought Jetpack Backup, it will instantaneously start backing up your site and making it available to you to make sure that your site is safe and secure. So definitely something to take a look at if you're running an agency, or if you have a lot of sites under management, the licensing portal might be available to you. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about the future of what we start to see as far as like agency level tooling that we're going to be building out. So stay tuned for that. Now I want to dig a little bit deeper into the activity log. The activity log is by far one of my favorite features that Jetpack has to offer. It is something that's been around for a couple of years, and honestly, I don't think a lot of people have really tapped into the power of the activity log. So if you're an end user and you only manage one site, and you're the only user of that site, the activity log may not be as vital to you, but it would help if you were ever hacked or anybody logged in as you could see what they did and undo that. If you have backup, each event actually becomes a restore point. So the activity log helps paint a picture of everything that's happening. So if you are editing your site and you install a plugin and then your site breaks, you could easily restore back. If you're editing content, you delete that image, you can easily restore back. And it'll literally tell you that something was deleted. And and then you'll be able to restore back to that. So in this instance, you can see here that I deleted a page called privacy policy. Now, what's the first thing that happens if your client sees that something's missing on the site, something on the site is broken? Well, the first, and this is coming from personal experience, having run an agency or as a freelancer for years before that, I can tell you the first thing that client's going to do is blame me or blame the agency. Even if the client did it themselves, they're going to blame the agency. And then the problem that you have at that moment is that you have this he said, she said thing, right? Where the client is sure that they didn't do anything. You're sure that the client did. Well, how do you prove that? It's not as easy as you might think. So that's where the activity log can actually help improve the integrity of your agency and the relationship with your client, because it's a trusted third party defining exactly what happened. Jesse Friedman logged in at 3:42 p.m. and at 3:55 deleted this post or this page. So, you could easily screenshot this and send it to your client and just help them understand, exactly what's going on. That will help to improve your relationship, hopefully, and create a better experience. We're actually going to be expanding the tools here as well. Probably in the near future, you might see that we're going to try and make it easier for you to share these events directly with individuals as well. I'm going to take a quick second here because I see that there's two questions. The first question is, hi, is this a free plugin? To answer that, yes, absolutely. Jetpack is a free plugin. There are dozens of features that are completely free. Earlier in the presentation, everything that I talked about in that first real slide after the agenda, every one of those features are free. What we do charge for, though, are security features like Jetpack Backup, Scan, and Anti-Spam. And then we also have additional products like Video Press, which provides ad-free video storage and delivery. So you get a beautiful video player. You can think about this a lot like Vimeo. And then we also have Jetpack Search, which provides an elastic-like search solution to your sites and allows users to filter content. It really expands on the WordPress built-in search feature. And we have Jetpack CRM as well, which is a client relationship management tool. I see a second question here that says, why agencies need licensing? I'm not 100% sure exactly what you're driving at with that question, but I'll take a stab at it. Agencies will benefit from licensing in the sense that they'll be able to have a single invoice for all of their products. So if you have, let's say, a dozen sites under management and you put Jetpack Backup on all of them, not only will you get, and actually, I'm glad you bring this up because I think I forgot to mention that, but not only will you get a single invoice at the end of each month, but you also get a discount. So there's a 25% discount for anyone using the agency tools. And actually, if you sign up and issue 10 licenses before the end of the year, you'll actually get that discount bumped to 35%. Excuse me, sorry. My phone is kicking off. Okay, so I think I answered those two questions. Let me know. Feel free to ask it again if I missed the mark on that one. So the last thing I want to talk about are hosting companies and resellers. So Jetpack has integrated with a variety of hosting companies. If you sign up for Bluehost, for example, Bluehost comes packaged with Jetpack. A lot of times that experience is very seamless. It's automatically connected and enabled for that end user, providing a far superior experience to those customers. And because of that, we've built out tools that are meant to really like improve the experience for those first-time users. So while all the tools that we're talking about today are really meant to help agencies, hosting companies, and a variety of other people managing multiple sites, the core product Jetpack is really meant to like help those end users be more successful with WordPress. And so we've built out a variety of tools here to really help them in those early stages to really be more successful. The thing that you're seeing here is what we call the Jetpack Assistant. There's a variety of questions that the user will go through, and it makes recommendations for them that are personalized and based on the questions that they answer. Things that are great for them are like, for example, if they say that they're running a store, it might suggest that they install WooCommerce. If they are identified as a business, it would suggest something like Creative Mail to help them manage their relationship with their customers via email. So what we found is that tools like this, and as I mentioned before, Jetpack automatically augmenting the WordPress core solution, it creates a seamless experience when people log in and they use WordPress. Actually, one of the issues that we've actually found with Jetpack is that sometimes people don't even realize that the tools that they're using are made by Jetpack. They think that it comes packaged with WordPress. And what that speaks to is the fact that we're providing a really superior experience to these customers. And what we've seen is that Jetpack has a direct connection to a reduction in churn, in hosting churn. So something to think about, as a minimum viable product, I guess, or minimal viable partnership would be feel free to just include Jetpack in new WordPress installations. We see this all the time. There's tons of hosts that do this. Jetpack will be included and active and available to customers, which actually, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but actually saves them the time for having to search for additional plugins. All right, so I'm going to take a quick second to answer a couple more questions. How can I start an agency in reselling a Jetpack license? That's a really great question. Okay, so how do you start as an agency? Well, if you go to jetpack.com/agencies, you'll see a whole bunch of information on the agency solution, and there's a form there at the bottom, and that goes directly to our happiness team that will evaluate you as an agency and make you put you right into the agency portal and give you the opportunity to set up Jetpack licensing. If, however, you want to think about reselling Jetpack and distributing Jetpack, you might want to take a look at jetpack.com/for/hosts. And I'm sure that we can find a way to do this, but if you just go to jetpack.com and look for hosts, there's another form there, and you can fill that out. That actually goes directly to me personally, Jesse Friedman, and just let me know that you're interested in reselling Jetpack and that you saw this presentation, and we can definitely start kicking off that conversation. We do have many programs available to people, so if you'd like to make Jetpack available to your customers, either through having them buy it directly through you or including it in whatever offering you have, we can help you with that. So that, I think, answers that question. Feel free to expand on it if you have any additional questions there. Next question, is it free? I'm assuming that this is about the agency, access to the agency portal. And the reason I ask that is because that is the #1 question that I get about the agency portal. It is 100% free. All you have to do is sign up to use at least 5 licenses within 90 days. And then the licensing portal is available to you and free. Jetpack also provides cloud hosting with WordPress plugin. Jetpack actually doesn't provide cloud hosting. Jetpack is not a hosting company, it is a plugin. We have relationships with a variety of hosting companies that allow us to distribute Jetpack and make it more accessible to customers. But Jetpack itself does not provide cloud hosting. There's a couple other questions there that I'm seeing now, but I'm going to just hold off on those because they're not actually related to exactly what we're talking about now, but I'll grab those at the end, I promise. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is a reduction in time to live. Time to live is a metric that basically counts from the moment that a user or a new customer of a hosting company signs up with a host, hits submit on giving them their credit card, and they become a customer. So that moment to the moment where they go live with their website. How do we reduce that? Why do we want to reduce that? Well, I've worked with a lot of hosting companies, and I can tell you that the longer it takes a person to set up their site, the less likely they are to ever publish it. They get distracted. The job becomes way too tough. They didn't realize how much work might be involved, or they can't get it quite right. So how do we reduce that? Well, one of the things that I want to really emphasize here is that when you include Jetpack by default, I mentioned this earlier, it really does augment that WordPress experience. But let's take a look and think about this from the perspective of an end user. Today, let's say I sign up for a hosting company. I buy a hosting plan. I now have a new WordPress, and I'm in my WordPress WP admin. And the reason I chose WordPress is because everybody told me how easy it is and how simple it is, and I can do all the things I want. But I want to add a contact form to my contact page. How do I do that? Well, contact forms are not available in WordPress. So then I have to Google, how do I add a contact form? And at that point, I learn what a plugin is. We take for granted this because we all work in this space and we know what plugins are, but a lot of end users don't even understand the concept of a plugin extending the functionality of WordPress. So their first step is to learn what a plugin is. Then they learn about WordPress.org, the directory, and the available plugins there. Then they search for contact form. If you search for contact form, you get over 1,000 results. And so we see contact form 7, which is probably the world's most popular contact form plugin right there at the top. I hit that, I hit add, I hit install, I hit activate, and now what? Well, guess what? Contact Form 7 has now changed my WordPress backend. There's now a Contact Form 7 navigation item, but it is also its own UI. So every single plugin I install comes with its own user interface, its own set of developers designing designers designing the experience for that customer. Some plugins require a lot of understanding and knowledge, and so each time I extend the functionality of WordPress, I have to learn all these new things, and the list goes on. So like I have to repeat this process for contact forms, for social media icons, for Gutenberg blocks, for statistics plugins, things like that. So this is where Jetpack can really come in handy, because as I mentioned before, it augments the WordPress experience. And so a lot of the things that people just expect to be in WordPress, it does exist now. So because Jetpack is there and it's active and connected, all of those things that we just mentioned, users don't have to go searching for those things and spending all this time trying to figure out how to use all these things, and they get to focus on writing their content and publishing their site. So Jetpack can really have a major impact on and reducing the time to live there. The next thing I want to talk about is that we have a bunch of APIs available. There's documentation on GitHub if you want to take a look at Jetpack's GitHub hosting partners program. This kind of speaks to the question that we got earlier, like how do you get into reselling? There's a great deal of opportunity here with Jetpack. The main thing I want to talk about is just the fact that we make it available for you to provision plans. So if you want to provision a free version of Jetpack, or if you want to provision other plans, that's available to you. There's a variety of things here to do a lot of integrations, and I'll have a lot of fun with Jetpack, but really like hone in that experience. And that takes me to the next thing, which is customizing Jetpack's modules. So Jetpack has its own CLI. WordPress core comes with a command line interface. So if you're experienced with this, ignore this for 2 seconds, but if you're not, a command line interface is basically like a terminal prompt that allows you to type in a command and take an action, which would be far faster than going into each individual WordPress website and making those configuration changes individually. This allows you to basically do it with a single line of code. But then you can also basically run through that for all of your sites. So if you have a lot of sites under management, you can do that individually. So the next step I would say is take a look at customizing Jetpack's modules. This allows you to do a lot of really cool things. You can, for one, turn off any features of Jetpack that you don't think are right for your customer base. 2, you can turn on features of Jetpack. Jetpack does not come with, I mentioned that there's like 50 something features on available to you. They're not all on by default. So you can go in and turn those on. You can also force on or force off features. So I mentioned earlier, 2 features that a lot of people consider turning on by default are Jetpack's brute force protection, because it overall hardens the security across all of your network, your entire infrastructure. And 2 would be the CDN, the Photon CDN. Why do we want to turn that on for default? Well, it provides a much faster experience. Sites get quicker, and it actually offloads a lot of the bandwidth from your infrastructure as well. So if you're if you have 1,000 sites under management and you want to try and reduce some of the performance load of your servers, you can turn these on by default, and it mirrors the images directly to our CDN and serves those images directly from us in our cloud. So something to think about there is personalizing the Jetpack experience for your customer base. All right, so a look forward. So I mentioned earlier that we have a variety of tools that are available to people. We also have a variety of beta groups. We have the Jetpack core plugin beta group that's available to everybody. We also have an agency beta group that's happening right now. This is an opportunity for you to kind of weigh in on what it is that we're going to be building in the future and give us your feedback immediately. We also have another beta group that we're looking to start on social media tools. So if you're interested in seeing if Jetpack can expand its social media offering and integrations with social media platforms, and you're interested in helping us out, you could join that one as well. Agency tools, I mentioned before that we got into trying to help agencies through the licensing system. We're also looking at expanding that and seeing what we can do to really help agencies run their businesses more efficiently, more effectively, help secure more sites and a variety of things there. So we're actually going to be building out a variety of agency tools over the next few years, and we'd love your feedback and anything that you think that would be exciting to see from Jetpack. All right, well, that concludes our presentation. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to be here today. I have a few questions here that I'm going to answer. And if you haven't asked a question yet and you'd like to, now's the time. Feel free to add it. All right, so first question, can you please explain some basic settings for Jetpack? I'm going to take a stab. This is not, I'm not sure I 100% understand what you're saying, but as far as the basic settings for Jetpack, what you need to do is install Jetpack, activate it. Once you connect it with a user account, it unlocks all of the features. So the first thing you're going to see when you turn on Jetpack is an opportunity to connect it. And at that point, you use a WordPress.com or Jetpack.com login to sign up an SSO into your site if you want to. And then there's a variety of tools. I think there's like 9 or a dozen or so that are on by default. That's like stats, Gutenberg blocks, things like that. And then there's dozens of other features of Jetpack that you can go into the WP admin Jetpack settings and see all the features there to enable them. If you want to expand on that question, I'd be happy to answer that in more detail. Next question, how does Jetpack's downtime monitor work? That's a great question. So Jetpack has a downtime monitoring solution. What it does is I believe it's every 2 minutes. Once enabled, it will check your site, look for a server response, or if it can't get a server response, it'll see how long it takes to load. If it takes an unreasonable amount of time, it will alert you that your site is either down or not functioning the way it's supposed to. So it's actually a really clever downtime solution. I rarely see false positives. And you get that notification in the form of an email. We're also, if it's not already live, we're also looking at expanding that to the Jetpack mobile app as well. So you'd get a push notification on your system there. So our cloud basically kind of just checks to see the status of your site, and if there's anything wrong with it, we alert you of that. If you have any further questions on that, I'm happy to answer that as well. Next question, will Jetpack conflict with other similar plugins, e.g. backups, EWWW, etc.? So Jetpack, I've been at Automatic for 7+ years, and I can tell you that we take every single conflict extremely seriously. And we do everything we can to fix that as fast as we can. So if there is ever a conflict, please let us know, because we'd love to fix it. They are pretty rare. We don't see them very often. And in fact, our especially cautious customers will use Jetpack Backup and even another backup solution. Personally, I don't think that's necessary, but if that's what makes you feel better and sleep better at night, you're more than welcome to do that. I don't know of any existing conflicts as of right now. Jetpack plays pretty well with everything out there. And if you use a different backup solution and you want to use Jetpack's free services or a different solution like Jetpack Scan or Jetpack CRM, they should work beautifully together. There should be no problems. You're welcome. Thank you for saying that. Next question. Jetpack takes really long for backup and restore of large sites. We have a 10 GB plus website, and it took 7 hours to back up. So we started using another plugin, which does this quicker for migration, but we need the Jetpack plugin for various other features, including backup. But this always breaks the Jetpack connection, and still someone notices there's no real-time backup happening. Will you be adding a feature to check if Jetpack Connection is working or not? That's a great question. So there's a couple things to unpack there. One is, yes, incredibly large sites, 10 GB plus, will take a long time to do the initial backup. So the first backup will take a long time. Each subsequent backup should be a lot quicker. And if you're still experiencing that, I would love to talk to you, because we want to make sure that that's the best experience possible. I don't know that it's necessarily just the size of your site that's causing it to take a long time. It could be the location of the servers, the access that the host has. I don't know where you're hosting your site, but some hosts throttle the connection for things like that, for backups. So other backup solutions that happen quicker are usually ones that are happening locally, which the only thing I would recommend there that you want to think about is if you have an incredibly large site and it's using your own server resources to pack that up and save those backups, you might actually be affecting the end user experience. So just something to think about there. Next. Will Jetpack have a feature to check the Jetpack connection is working or not? Well, this is an interesting question. It's something that I've actually personally worked on in the past, and it's kind of confounded me myself, because the Jetpack connection is a requirement for a lot of features to work. However, there are a variety of ways in which you can disconnect Jetpack. If you disable your site, if you turn your site off or shut it down, Jetpack's connection will be severed. But that was an intentional thing that you wanted to do. If you just remove Jetpack, the plugin itself, that would mean that Jetpack is no longer working as well. And that was something that you wanted to do. Then there's also ways of actually hitting the disconnect button and disconnecting Jetpack and doing it that way. The issue that we've run into in the past is that there's a variety of reasons why someone's site could sever the Jetpack connection, and not all of them are in the control of Jetpack. And so if we were to alert you every single time that Jetpack's connection got disconnected, it might become cumbersome. It might become frustrating because these are actions that you're taking and we can't actually detect that. It's not in the possibility of Jetpack to see that, you've uninstalled the plugin, or if you completely removed your site, or maybe you're migrating it or something like that. That being said, though, I think it is a really interesting issue that we should definitely be solving for, because you're right. There are a lot of people who rely on Jetpack, and if that connection does get severed for some reason, we should make sure that those customers know that and see that. So I will personally make sure that we take a look at that and see if there's a solution that we can implement to address that. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. That looks like that's the last of the questions. I don't see anything else. So I want to thank you all again for bearing with me. It is currently 5:45 a.m. my time. So if I seemed a little drowsy, yeah, you know why. But thank you so much for all of you for being here. And I hope you have a great rest of your conference.